Hello, everybody. My name is Sunday Adelaja, and I have lived in the former Soviet Union, Russia, Ukraine, Belarus for the past 36 years. In the past 36 years of my life, I have lived among Russians, Ukrainians, Belarusians, the former Soviet Union people, and I think I have some understanding of what's going on, and also being a servant of God, I think I have some insight into what might be happening. So there must be a reason why it has to be Russia. Why is it that it is Russia that is the aggressor in this war? Why is it that God allowed Russia to be a country that is the villain, that is the aggressor, that is the attacker, that is the hated country that is now going against an independent country, and as a result has become a hated country. And now most countries of the world hate Russia or are angry at Russia, and the economy of Russia is collapsing, and the reputation of Putin is going down. Why is it that God allowed that to happen to Russia? Why is it Russia had to start this war? Well, I would say from my observations and from the Spirit of God in me, that there might be some few lessons that God wants to teach Russia. Number one, Russia has suffered humiliation, a great humiliation, by the collapse of former Soviet Union, and that sentiment has been expressed by Vladimir Putin himself, that the greatest tragedy or geopolitical tragedy of the last years is the collapse of the former Soviet Union. And they feel the pain, especially Russians still feel the pain that all their great power, which was the second most powerful country in the world, had collapsed. And so their greatest desire is to build another empire, another great, mighty force, powerful country that will not be worse than the former Soviet Union. And all the president that they had before then, Gorbachev and Yeltsin, they couldn't do anything to resurrect the past glory of the former Soviet Union. But when Putin came, God used him greatly. He basically built that country from the ruins. He had to, he actually did a great job, frankly speaking, and it is impossible to deny. The country was falling apart. The country was living in abject poverty, and he brought the country back to a prosperous nation, a country that was like when the former Soviet Union collapsed, it was going to maybe number 20 something in the world, but now it's in the top 10, and it has maybe in the top 5, and it has overtaken Great Britain in GDP. And it's grown so fast, so dynamically, that it's unbelievable. It has one of the biggest reserves, foreign reserves in the world as a country. When America is talking about debt, 20 trillion debt, Russia is rather talking about surplus, 600 billion surplus that they have in their reserves. So Russia has been so proud of Putin, and Putin has been like a hero, like a cult figure for most Russian people. That's why in these elections, it will always get over 70 something percent, because people trust him. People say, we were in hunger when this man came. We were all humiliated and we were ashamed to be Russians. But because of Putin, we have dignity, we have wealth, we're well-to-do, our economy is doing well, our cities are growing, economy is growing, everything. So they kept on tolerating him, and maybe even re-electing him. And even when he does things that are bad, people always say, okay, no problem, but he has done greater things for us. For other things he has done for us, we must appreciate him and keep him there, because we don't know who the next person will be. So, and power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so when they began to show dictatorship, people just say, that is nothing. We can endure that compared to where we're coming from. Where we're coming from, things were really worse. And they were also very, very proud of him in the sense that he's a fit man, powerful leader, charismatic, very well composed, very logical, very thoughtful, very calculative in his actions. He's a man that is, if you understand Russian language and if you speak Russian language, it's a man that is easy to love. For example, I think he's one of the strongest leaders in the world. It's very difficult to find a leader right now that is compared to him. He is very enigmatic, and he's very, very charismatic too. So the Russians just have now elevated him to a place of God, almost God, without knowing. And you see, nobody will take the place of God. God will not allow anybody to be an idol in the heart of other people. Because when you begin to put your trust in man, that's the end of that man. That man will collapse. And that is what I think is happening now. Because the man that you are putting your faith in and seeing him as your deliverer will now be the same man that will bring you to your ruins. The man that you think that as long as you have him, that nothing will ever go wrong. We are making him your stronghold, your power, your threshold. That person will now become the person that will drag you to your grave. And that is what Putin is now doing to his country. Your Russian people have to be humbled. They have to be humiliated, and they have to be to come to a place where they don't put their faith in one man or in physical things. Russian people are very big on material things. Russia, Moscow, and people of Moscow, their lifestyle is the most exotic lifestyle you ever see. Most of the exotic boutiques in the world are being paraded by Russians. Most of the biggest yachts in the world are being owned by Russians, and Russians like good life, and their trust and their faith and they put a lot of emphasis on material things, especially after communism collapsed, because during communism they couldn't have material things, and when the freedom came for them to have possessions, those possessions have now possessed them. Now it's a time when those things should collapse, and when those things collapse, they have to be forced to look for something greater and something deeper. So that is for the Russian people. Secondly, there are a lot of good things that Putin has done. For example, he has stood against gay marriage and other things that the West is tolerating, and he has stood he has stood strongly by the Russian Orthodox Church and by basic tenets of Christianity. But those, as good as that is also making Russians to be proud and to look down at other people, to look down at the West. And for example, when Russia was in communism and they didn't believe in God, and the West were pitying them and they were trying to help them and trying to find a way to support them. But that is not what Russia does. When Russia is now standing very well in faith, in their Orthodox faith, and they are not doing all this gay and lesbianism and homosexualism and other things that is rampant in the West, Russian people see it as a thing of pride, that, oh, look, the West is falling. They're almost rejoicing that things are going bad for the West, and we are the ones who are okay. We are now the real Christians. We are the ones who are doing. They forgot that just 30 years ago they were in darkness themselves, and that the West was trying to do everything to help them. So that pride also has to be broken, even though it's like something similar. I mean, it's like something good, positive, something that is Christian, but still, they still have to be broken, because that is not the Christian attitude. Even when, like Ukrainians, when the refugees were running to the West and from Syria and other places, Russians were always laughing at the West, that West has become so weak. Russia wants to be strong. Russia like being strong, and strong nation, strong people. But through this war, I think God is going to break them. and make them to let them to know that no, their strength can only take them so far. And if they will lose in Ukraine, that will mean that God will totally humiliate them. And even if they win in Ukraine, it will still lead to so much pain and so much loss that they will know that strength, by strength shall no man prevail. That, human strength doesn't take you that far. That you still have to have human qualities, the qualities of humanity, the qualities of humility, the qualities of empathy, qualities of brotherhood, and love. Those qualities that they have lost because of the new success that they have found through Vladimir Putin. All those things have to come crashing down. And when those things come crashing down, then they will know that there is something beyond the ordinary things that you see. Another thing that has to happen through this war is that Russia pays so much attention to their military prowess. They always brag themselves that they are the biggest nuclear power country in the world, alongside you, America. But right now, the Russians have overtaken America again, and they are so proud of that. And because of that, they are ready to do anything that nobody can take on them, and that they will rather destroy the whole world than for Russia to be destroyed. Even President Putin has said that there is no need for a world where there will be no Russia. Well, right now, the world is turning their back at Russia, and Russia is going to have a taste of it, what it means to be without the world. And it's going to be a life of pain, sorrow, regret, and humiliation. And Russia has to go through that so that they know that it's not just by power, either military, financial power, or anything, that it is by strength shall no man prevail. That even by strength, by sheer strength, shall no nation prevail. So a lot of lessons for Russians to learn. Even by putting their faith in one man, all these things have to come to an end. And Russia has to put their faith in God, but with humility, to make sure that they are not using their Christian faith to be a way or a thing that they use to mock other people also. So I think that through this war, God is passing judgment on Russia. God is passing judgment on the wrong value systems that are taking place in the last 20 years of Putin's reign in Russia. And God is judging Ukraine as well. And I've done another video why I think Ukraine has to suffer and go through what they're going through. I think there is a logical and spiritual understanding to all these things that are happening. But God is in control, and He rules in the affairs of men at the end of the day. So many more things to say, but I will stop here now. Thank you so much.